Hello everyone, a very good morning. I hope everyone is doing very well. Okay, I'm sorry for that. Let me see if I'm live or not, and then we'll see if the audio is correct or not, and then we will start with the class. Let me see if I'm live or not, and then we'll see if the audio is correct or not, and then we will start with the class. Okay, so the audio is absolutely correct, and we are live and kicking and everything. So let's start with the class. Before I start, I want to inform you all that the live chat is absolutely open. And you can drop in your messages in there. आप वहाँ पे अपने messages drop कर सकते हो. That is if you're having any issues, if you're having any problem, you can always drop in a message there. All right. So today we will be starting with something known as travelers in India. Okay. All right. Just give me 1 second, guys. Let me just check one more thing and then we will start. Also, मैंने आपके लिए एक Google form, I have sent one Google form for all of you in the chat. मैंने chat में आप सबके लिए एक Google form जो है वो डाला है, ठीक है. तो चैट में जैसे जो गूगल फॉर्म डला हुआ है, सो आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप इस फॉर्म को फिल कीजिए. इस फॉर्म को अगर आप फिल करेंगे और बताएंगे, इफ यू जस्ट टेल अस अबाउट द प्रॉब्लम्स दैट यू आर फेसिंग वाइल स्टडिंग ऑन यूट्यूब, वी विल डेफिनेटली वांट टू रीवैम्प दैट. हम उसको डेफिनेटली अच्छा करने की कोशिश करेंगे. So this is an initiative which has been taken by Result Guru because we provide you classes on YouTube and we want to make sure that you have the best experience possible. So for that, what are we doing? For that, I have shared a form with you. Now that form is really important. Why? Because you can fill your experiences. You can tell us what you're liking, what you're not liking, what more do you want from YouTube. You can tell us all of that, and then we will be able to provide you with all of that accordingly. So please do fill the form, guys. It will be really important for us, really important for you, because you will also get get a hang of it कि क्या हो रहा है क्या नहीं हो रहा है. Okay, so the form has been shared in the live chat. Okay, I don't know where it will go. Yes, I've again shared the form in the live chat. All right, so please be very careful about that. Please do fill the form and let us know if there's any difficulty that you might be facing. Chaliye, let's start now. Let's start with the class. So since we're doing travelers in India, so we have completed Huon Tsang, we have completed Francois Bernier, we have completed Ibn Battuta and Il Biruni, and today I'm going to be starting with someone called Abdur Razak. Okay, so that's what we will be focusing on. Now I have left few slides in between because I wanted to draw something, if I wanted to write something, so that would become much more easier for me. It'll be easier for me to give you little flow charts. All right, let's start. So Abdur Razak, now I am sure you have heard of his name when you were doing Vijayanagar Empire, right? So Vijayanagar Empire, when we were doing in class 12th, you must have heard of his name, that how he had come, right? How he had come to the Vijayanagar Empire, and he has mentioned about the fortifications, isn't it? How many lines of fortifications does he mention? He mentions around 7 lines of fortification in the Vijayanagar Empire, isn't it? So that's all we will be talking about. Okay. Chaliye, so let's start talking about Abdur Razak. So Abdur Razak was born on November 7, 1413 in Herat, which is present day Afghanistan, to Jalaluddin Ishaq. So who is the father here? The father is Jalaluddin Ishaq, And Abdul Razak was born when? He was born on November 7th, 1413 in Herat, which is present day Afghanistan. All right. Yes. So I hope, yeah, now. So Jalaluddin Ishaq was the father of Razak. Now Jalaluddin Ishaq had a very important position. Fine. Shah Rukh, who was then the ruler of Persia, and he belonged to the Timurid dynasty. So Shah Rukh was appointed as the Qazi there. Fine. So under the rulership of Shah Rukh, Jalaluddin Ishaq was appointed as the Qazi. Okay? And after the death of Jalaluddin Ishaq, it was Abdul Razak who was appointed as the Qazi. And under his, it is under Shah Rukh, who is the ruler of Persia, that Razak prepared, or he prospered as a legal courtier, a trustee, and an ambassador. So he learned all the, all the aspects of being an ambassador under the court or in the court of Shah Rukh when he was appointed as the judge of Persia. Alright. Now, from there, when he became the judge, he got to witness a lot of things. He witnessed political events, military events, diplomatic events, all of these things. And then he was assigned an international mission that had taken him to Eurasia. And his most important mission was a task in India. And that's why he had landed in India. Alright. So what all did we learn? That he was born in Herat. His father was Jalaluddin Ishaq. Jalaluddin Ishaq was a Qazi under the rulership of Shah Rukh, who was the ruler of Persia at that point of time. And after his death, after the father's death, Abdul Razak was appointed as the Qazi. And it is here that he learned all the aspects of being an ambassador. He participated, or he basically saw various military, political, and diplomatic events. And his most important task was his mission when he was sent to India. Okay, so let me just draw a brief flowchart for you here. So we are talking about Abdul Razak. I'll try कि ये जो भी information हम लेंगे वो सब हम एक में ही enter कर दें. ठीक है? So let me just divide it into various parts here. Okay, so since we're talking about his early life. Okay, so since we're talking about his early life, let me just write down the pointers of his early life. Okay, November 7th he was born. Okay, November 7th, 1413 he was born. Father Jalaluddin Ishaq. Then what did we learn? Qazi of Persia. Okay. Then what else did we learn? Then he learned, then his most important title, or most important task actually was when he was taken to India. Okay, also let me check if this is visible on the screen. Yeah, I think this is visible on the screen, but maybe I'll use a different pen. Okay, so this is all about his early life. ठीक है, चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं. Let's move ahead. Now, let's talk about his visit to India. And this is, again, I'll draw it in a flowchart form also so that you have a clear understanding. So what was and how was his visit in India? Let's talk about that. So he visited the Vijayanagar kingdom at the time of Krishnadev Raya. Dev Raya II, the ruler of the Sangam dynasty. Fine. So he visited when? Under the rule of Dev Raya II, who belonged to the Sangam dynasty. Now he actually did a huge journey. He did a long journey before he even reached Vijayanagar. And when he reached Calicut, he was not really impressed by the people there. And he said that, these people are scantily clad, means they're hardly wearing any clothes, and, they're the ones who practiced polyandry. I really don't know why he was judging us like that, because even in the culture that he comes from, polyandry was quite famous. So I really don't know why he was judging us like that, but that's what he has said. So he was not really impressed by Calicut, because he thought that people are scantily clad because they're hardly wearing any clothes, and also they were practicing polyandry. Okay, so Abdul Razak wrote his travels. Now, what is the name of his book? The name of his book is Matla us Sadain wa Majma ul Bahrain, or the rise of two auspicious constellations and the confluence of two oceans. Please remember this. This is a very important point. Then what is the name of the book that he has written? The name of the book is The Rise of Two Auspicious Constellations and the Confluence of Two Oceans. Fine. This is the name of the book that he has written. Alright, let's move ahead. Let's talk more about his visit to India, and then we can solve some more doubts. Alright, let's move ahead. So according to Razak's account, Dev Raya's empire extended from Ceylon to Gulbarg and Orissa to Malabar. So now this is according to Razak's account. Now why are we believing Razak's account so much? So guys, if you all remember, I'd already told you that whenever we talk about foreign travelers, we tend to understand, or we tend to believe what they say, because they are providing you with a third person account. They have no, if they are exaggerating in a positive manner, they have no intention of doing that, isn't it? They have no need of doing that. So when they do it, maybe they are speaking the truth. But again, I also gave you example of Bernier, and I told you that you have to be careful as well. So according to Razak, Dev Raya's second empire had extended from Ceylon to Gulbarg to and Orissa to Malabar. This is the extent of Dev Raya's empire. So when he met Dev Raya, he saw that he was sitting in a 40-pillared hall. Now, if you remember your Vijayanagar empire, you would also remember that the 40-pillared hall is which one? It is also, maybe it can be the Lotus, it can be the audience hall, or it can be the Lotus Mahal, right? So he was sitting in a 40-pillared hall. He was surrounded by Brahmins. He had this olive complexion, so wheatish complexion, you can say. He was wearing this huge necklace of pearls. He was tall and young, but he had no beard or mustache. So no beard or मूछे उसकी नहीं थी. So he's just giving you a description. Okay, what is he doing? He's just giving you a description of how it should be. He's just giving a description of the king. So when we don't have a portrait, we can definitely depend on his description to understand that maybe how Dev Raya was looking. Okay? So when Abdul Razak met the king, he was really welcomed. Why? Because he was given a Chinese fan. I don't know how many of you have seen that fan. You hold it in one hand and you can, keep fanning yourself like that. It has a very aesthetic look to it. So he was given a Chinese fan. He was given money. He was given camphor. Camphor is kapoor, betel, pan. And Razak's accommodation was on a ground which was near to the king's palace. Now this shows that he was given a lot of importance, because when the king is giving him accommodation near his palace, this actually shows that there was a lot of things that he could be doing. Fine. And on a daily basis, he was sent 2 sheep, 4 couples of fowls, rice, butter, and 2 gold varahas. Imagine, on a daily basis, all of this was being sent to him. So definitely he must have been a very important member, right? And now I am, distrusting his whatever he has said about Vijayanagar, but maybe he was a little biased because the king was giving him so much. Could have been, isn't it? We have to be careful whenever we examine these things. Alright, so let me just write it down for you, and then maybe, we can move ahead. We have more, but I'll just write it down for you a little bit. So let's talk about his visit to India. I think this is better. I think this one is better. Let me just check on the screen if this is better. He came under the rule of Dev Raya II Sangam dynasty. Not impressed. By people of Calicut. Right? He was not really impressed by the people of Calicut. Now, what is the name of his book? Yeah, I think this is much more visible, right guys? ये काफी अच्छे से visible है. Okay. Alright, what is the name of his book? The Rise of I'm just checking if it is visible or not. So, the rise of two auspicious constellations and confluence of two oceans. Okay, all right, let's talk a little bit. Let me write a little bit more. So I'm using here, मैं यहाँ पे लिख रही हूँ. I'm writing here. I'll be adding more to this maybe in the next slide. Given accommodation near king और भी काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें इनको भेजी जाती थी. So what all was being sent to him? Sheep, rice, butter and gold varhas. Okay. So all this was being sent to him. So this was his visit to India. Now I have more points to add here. Let me just complete those points with you first, and then maybe I will add those points here as well. Okay. All right. So now. So where he had described the city of Vijayanagar as being governed by an able king. It was filled with beautiful temples, gardens, palaces. There were around 300 harbors. And he has talked about so many warriors, isn't it? He has talked about almost 11 lakh warriors. It was well fortified. The markets were teeming with wealth. He also mentioned the royal center of Hampi had several rivulets and streams flowing through the channel of cut stone. Now all this information you already are aware, I'm sure आप इसके बारे में जानते हैं. You're already aware about these information when you learnt about Vijayanagar Empire in your class 12th history book, right? So what is he mentioning? That Vijayanagar was being governed by an able king. It was filled with beautiful temples, gardens, and it was filled with palaces. Okay. There were around 300 harbors, which is an indicator that yes, they were involved in long distance trading, which they were, because that was the whole fight, isn't it? They wanted to capture the Raichur Doab because they wanted to engage in long distance trading. There were around 11 lakh warriors who were working for the king. It was well fortified. The markets were teeming with wealth, in the sense there were so many products that people were buying, people were selling. So definitely there was a lot of wealth. Now, he also mentions that the royal center had several rivulets. So we have already spoken about the canals, we've already spoken about the channels, the reservoirs, the Hiria Canal, the reservoirs that was built, and how the river Tungabhadra was being directed inside the Hampi, and being used for irrigation purposes. Alright. All this we have already covered when we were doing what? When we were doing our Vijayanagar Empire. Okay. So now let me know if you have any doubts till here. Just take a look at all the points. Alright. Just take a look at all the points. See for yourself and see if you have any doubts. The live chat is open, guys. And if you have any doubts, you can always put your questions in there. Just take a look at all the points and see if there's anything you don't understand. We can definitely work for it. I'll add these points here also. So I've added these points here also. So just let me know if you have any problems till here. Just take a look at all the points. Let me know if there's anything you don't understand. The live chat is open. You can always use the live chat to ask your doubts. So what I've done is I have basically मैंने जितना भी whatever I've taught about Abdul Razak, I have literally put everything that I have taught in this one slide. Okay. In this one slide. Okay, so I've put it in one slide. Otherwise you have it all here also. you can revise it from here, or you can just go onto this slide and you can revise it from here as well. So whichever you are comfortable with, you can just always use that. Please let me know if you have any doubts till here. The live chat is open and you can always use it. All right, let's move ahead now. So since we are done with Abdul Razak, now we will be moving on to another very important traveler in India, and that is Fa Hien. Now you all know that Fa Hien and Huon Tsang literally came to India, not together, but maybe like on not a contemporary basis, but back and forth. Maybe someone came before, someone came later. But for Fa Hien and Huon Tsang were the most important writers, foreign writers that we have for our history. They have given us extensive records. They have worked in the Nalanda University. They've studied there. They have taught there. So all of that makes them very, very, very important. Again, I'll be doing the same thing for you with Fa Hien as well. So let's talk about Fa Hien first, and then maybe I will draw you a flowchart for that also. So where was Fa Hien born? Fa Hien was born in 337 AD in Pyongyang, Wuwang. This is a modern Lifan city, Shaanxi. Okay, so just remember that he was born in Pyongyang, Wuwang. Fine, or just remember, if you can't remember all of that, remember that he was born in China. So he was a Chinese monk. Fine. And he started his expedition through Central Asia and ultimately landed in Sri Lanka at the age of 62. So he came to India at a much later stage in his life. Okay. So while he was visiting Changtan, he was taken aback by the torn and weathered state of the Book of Discipline, which contains the monastic code of Buddhist monks and nuns. Okay. So while he was traveling, while he was traveling in Changtan, he saw that the Vinay Pitak, which is the book of discipline, which contains the rules and regulations for the monks and the nuns to be followed in the Sangha, was actually in a very weathered condition. It was torn, it was not in a good condition. Fine. So what did he do? He literally sat down and literally he copied the entire thing, and he literally produced a new book. I would not say a new book, but he literally copied the entire thing to make it into a new book so that the weathered condition is no longer there. Fine. So in 399, he was accompanied by 4 other missions to visit the land of the Buddha in search of Buddhist text. So since he was a Buddhist monk, he was so taken aback. He was so sad by seeing the sorry state of the books that was there, the books of Buddhism, Sut Pitak, Vinay Pitak, and Abhidham Pitak. And so after he completed his project, after that he also brought 4 other missionaries, 4 other Buddhist followers to the land of Buddha in search of Buddhist texts, because he wanted to revamp on them. He wanted to change them. He wanted to make them much more comprehensible, and he basically wanted to preserve them. वो चाहते थे कि ये सारी चीजें जो है वो preserved रहें, so that anyone can use it in a later stage. Okay. All right. चलिए. So let me just move ahead a little bit. Fine. Let me just move ahead a little bit, and then maybe I will explain it all together. So he reached Purushpura, which is Peshawar, and he collected the Buddhist text. Fine. And he recollected that Buddha had predicted the birth of a king named Kanishka, who would build a magnificent stupa at this place. So when he reached Peshawar, he realized that Buddha had told him, or Buddha had predicted, that there would be a king named Kanishka, and he is going to build a magnificent stupa at this place. All right. So then he made his way towards northern India, and he took note of the different kind of vegetation that was there, and he compared it with his own land also, the kind of vegetation that was there in his own land. He found something very similar also, like bamboo, pomegranate, sugarcane. All of these things were also being grown in China, and it was also being grown here. All right. So, and he visited during the reign of Chandragupta II. Fine. Who under the reign of Chandragupta II. So this was under the Gupta Empire. So he visited under the Gupta Empire. Fine. What all have we learnt about him? So he was born in China in Pyongyang, Wuhan. Fine. And he was traveling through Central Asia and ultimately reached Sri Lanka at the age of 62. He was really interested in preserving the books of preserving the Buddhist text, like for example, the Vinay Pita. He in fact brought more missions, more Buddhist followers with him, so that they could all work on the text together. Fine. And then he had reached Peshawar, which is Purushpura, and he realized that it is here that Buddha had predicted the birth of King Kanishk, who's going to make a huge stupa here. And after that, he traveled to northern India and took a note of all the vegetation that was being grown. And he also basically compared, उन्होंने क्या किया? He also compared, or he basically tried to find similarities between the vegetation here and the vegetation of his own land. So he found that bamboo, pomegranate, sugarcane, all of these things were being grown in his own country as well. Okay. So, all right, let me just make a small flowchart for you so that it becomes much more clearer to you. All right. Let's talk about Fa Hien. I'm sorry for the bad handwriting and the drawing, guys. Not really comfortable with this. Born Pyongyang, I'm sorry. He was born in Pingyang, Wuyang. Okay. Let me just check if it is visible. मैं एक बार बस चेक कर रही हूँ गाइस, विजिबल होना चाहिए. Then he traveled through Central Asia, reached Sri Lanka at 62, wanted to preserve Buddhist texts North India, made a list of vegetation. Okay, all right, that's about it. Okay. So what all did he do? Where was he born? He was born in Pyongyang, Puang. He traveled through Central Asia and he finally reached Sri Lanka at the age of 62. He wanted to preserve Buddhist texts because he was really sad to see, really sad to see that the sorrow condition of Vinay Pitak. Then he brought 4 other missions to work with him to preserve the books. Then he traveled, then he reached Purushpura, which is Peshawar, and got to know about Kanishk. And then he traveled to northern India, took a list of all the vegetation that was there. And finally, what was he able to do? And finally, he was able to make a list of all the vegetation that was available at his own country as well. Okay, so this is what we have learned about him. All right. And yes, most importantly, I'm sorry I forgot to mention this point, he had come under the rule of Chandragupta II. Okay, so this is the Gupta Empire, right? So when did he launch? When did he come here? He came under the rule of Chandragupta II. All right. Now let's talk about his travels in India. Okay. So what all did he do in India? So now, since he was a Buddhist scholar, he really wanted to visit all the places or all the things which was associated with Buddha's life. Fine. So he visited Shravasti, Sarnath, Bodh Gaya, Vaishali, Rajgir, etc. He wrote about Takshila, Patliputra, Mathura, Kannauj in Middle India because all of these were places which were associated with Buddha's life. Now, a very important city that he visited was Mathura. He indicates that the city was prosperous, peaceful, and the people seem to be teetotalers and vegetarians. Okay, so because obviously it's a religious city for us, so obviously it has to be a vegetarian city, isn't it? Then he did a pilgrimage to Lumbini where Gautam Buddha was born, and then he traveled across Pakistan, Nepal, North India, and eventually went to Sri Lanka and claimed that demons and dragons were the original inhabitants of Ceylon, so he was not really impressed by that place. Then Fahian spent 2 years in Sri Lanka and then decided to return and along his precarious sea route to China. So finally he returned to China after spending some 2 years in Sri Lanka. Okay. And there's a cave in the district of Kalatura in Sri Lanka, and it is believed that this is where he had resided, this is where he had lived. Okay, so what all did he do when he was in India? He traveled to all the places which was associated with Buddhism. So he traveled to Shravasti, Sarnath, Bodh Gaya, Vaishali, Rajgir, all of these places. Fine. And then what did he also do? He went to Mathura as well. Then he went to Mathura as well, fine. And he indicated that the city was obviously very beautiful, very prosperous, very peaceful, and also that it was a place of vegetarians, fine. Then he also went to Lumbini, which was the birthplace of Gautam Buddha, and then he traveled across Nepal, North India, and finally landed in Sri Lanka. And from Sri Lanka, he went back to his home. Okay, so I'm just going to make a list of all his travels. All right, just going to make a brief flow chart of his travels in India. Okay, chaliye, let's talk about his travels in India. Visited all important Buddhist sites, Mathura, Okay, so he visited all important Buddhist sites, then went to Mathura, and then from there he went to Lumbini. Okay, and from there, I hope this is clear. From there, Pakistan, Nepal, Northern India. Then where did he go? Then he finally landed in Sri Lanka. And from there he went back to China. Okay, so this is what his travels look like. Okay, all right, let me just give you a brief about it once again. So what all did he do? So he basically wanted to travel to all the places which was related to Buddha. So he traveled to all the places which was important Buddhist sites, and he went to Mathura, and he wrote about that the city was quite prosperous, quite beautiful and peaceful. Then he did a pilgrimage to Lumbini. From there he traveled to Pakistan, Nepal, North India, and then from there he went to Sri Lanka, where he stayed for 2 years, and then he finally returned to his homeland, his country, which is China. Okay, so that's about Fa Yen. So what all, let me just give you a brief recap of whatever we have done today. जो भी आज हमने किया है उसका हम एक छोटा सा recap कर लेते हैं. So I'll just move on to the flowchart itself. So first of all, we learnt about Abdul Razak, that he was born on 7th November 1413. His father was Jalaluddin Ishaq, who was the Qazi of Persia under the rulership of Shah Rukh. But then after his death, Abdul Razak was appointed as the what? He was appointed as the Qazi, fine. And this is where he learnt all the necessities of being an ambassador, fine. And then when he came to India, he visited under the rule of their Devraya II, who was from the Sangam dynasty. He was not impressed by the people of Calicut because he accused them of practicing polyandry. His book is known as The Two Auspicious Constellation and the Confluence of Two Oceans. He was given accommodation near the king. He was sent a lot of goods on a daily basis like sheep, fowl, rice, butter, gold, varhas. He also mentions that there were around 300 arbors, 11 lakh warriors. It was well connected with streams which was being used for irrigation. And he also mentions the king to be really fair. That's about Abdul Razak. Now, let's talk about Fa Yen. Let's talk about his early life. So he was born in Pyongyang, Wuang. He traveled to Central Asia, reached Sri Lanka at the age of 62. He wanted to preserve Buddhist books, and he also, when he was traveling to northern India, he made a list of vegetation, tried to compare it with vegetation that was available in his own country, and he came under the rule of Chandragupta II. Now, why all did he travel? So he visited all important Buddhist sites: Mathura, Lumbini, Pakistan, Nepal, Northern India, Sri Lanka and China. So this is all about Fa Yen. So today what have we done? Today we have completed two very important travelers, and that is Abdul Razak and Fa Yen. Okay, we will be continuing with this session. In the next class also I'll be talking some more about a few other foreign travelers we will be focusing on. Okay, so I really hope that you have understood till here and that there's no difficulty. I will give you 2 more minutes to take a look at all the doubts that you might have. Okay, so अगर आपकी कोई भी डाउट है, कुछ भी अगर ऐसा है जो आपको नहीं समझ में आया है, then you can always put it in the live chat and we will definitely take it up. So I'm giving you 2 minutes, just take a look at that. I will have some water by then. Let me know if you are facing any doubts, any difficulties, any issues. All right. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to end the session here. And before I leave, I would request all of you to join our Telegram group. Just give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Okay. So before I end the session, I would request all of you to join our Telegram channel. The link has been given in the description box. Now, why is it important for you to join the Telegram channel? Because this is where you will get updates regarding the classes. At the same time, you will also get your notes. So whatever files that we upload, all that file will be given to you in the PDF format so that you have your notes handy, so when you can prepare whenever you want. So you should join the Telegram group. The link has been given in the description box. And before you all leave, I would request everyone to please like the video, share it with your friends, comment and let us know if there's anything you like. We would love to be appreciated. If there's anything you don't like, you can tell us that also. And do subscribe to the channel, guys. That's really important. Also press the bell notification so that you can get an update whenever we come online. So that would be a great thing for us. So thank you so much for joining us here. And before you all leave, do subscribe to the channel. That's very important. So thank you so much. I will now see you all in the next class, and we will continue with our discussion on travelers in India. Okay, thank you guys. See you all. Take care. Bye bye.